Hello, everyone.
This is Smoke the Podcast, episode 6.
Thank you for joining us once again. We appreciate all the support as usual. Today's topics, we're not going to do a cigar today.
Close, but no cigar.
But so our next episode, we'll have a little more cigar-centric topic.
Yeah.
But today, we're just not going to do it.
We have a lot to cover, and that's
yeah, we did. It's kind of a lot to cover, and we don't want to be worried about keeping our cigars lit and going into that review to kind of interrupt the flow of the show.
Yeah.
But we are going to be sipping on some whiskey, Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Select. And our firearms topic today is going to be the 2019 California gun laws, the new ones, or the ones that are taking effect, not necessarily new. Let's dive into it. Our whiskey's not poured yet, so let's go ahead and pour that up. Ryan, you want to kind of give us a rundown about this whiskey?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Select. Now, we've already done a Gentleman Jack. This is the step up. So this is the description of the whiskey from jackdaniels.com. It is bottled at 94 proof. Single Barrel Select layers subtle notes of caramel and spice with bright fruit notes and sweet aromatics for a Tennessee whiskey with one-of-a-kind flavor. The unique fact about this whiskey versus some of the other ones is you can actually see the bottling date and the barrel that it comes from, which is really, really cool. It is 47% alcohol. And yeah, it's just a really, really great glass of whiskey. So let's go ahead and get that aroma.
All right, we're all poured. Cheers.
Cheers.
Smells very good.
Yeah, it's smooth.
I don't know what it is about Jack Daniel's, but it has a very distinct flavor, smell, no matter which kind you're drinking.
Well, yeah, it's funny. I was gonna say, like, I don't smell like anything really specific. I more just smell Jack Daniel's whiskey. So let's go. I'm gonna try it now. That's good.
Yeah,
it's really smooth.
It's very smooth. It does have that Jack Daniel's flavor.
Yeah.
Maybe
I'm getting a note of it does say caramel, which is funny because I'm actually tasting a little bit of a caramel aftertaste to it.
If you like Gentleman Jack, my biggest knock about Gentleman Jack is it's always been really smooth, but not really, really, really flavorful.
Yeah.
This seems to be a combination of flavor and smoothness.
Well,
a little more flavor than the Gentleman Jack.
Yeah, and I think, like we said, the unique fact about it is it draws that distinct flavor from the barrel. And so I think you're getting a lot more of like that oak barrel flavor to it, which is pretty cool. So this is one that I have had before and I enjoy it. So it's not something that's new to me. But I would have to say if someone had Single Barrel Select, and that was a choice that I could have, I'd definitely go with it. So, yeah, good all around. And then just so you guys know, before we get started on our big topic today, because literally the moment we get started on the topic, that's pretty much all we're going to be covering today, is because we're not having cigars, we're actually indoors today. So we're changing up the recording setup a little bit,
just a little bit,
just to kind of see how things work. So you'll probably hear my Siberian Husky and my German Shepherd wandering around the house and eating food and drinking water and
making normal dog noises.
Yeah. Well, if the Husky gets a little rowdy, you'll probably hear her talking back to us. So, but yeah, let's move on to today's topic. So our firearms topic.
All right. Well, let's just go through each of the laws that are kind of taking effect in 2019, just briefly, one by one. You want to go ahead and just read us through it and what's happening. We'll give our opinions and everything. We'll go each one by one later, but just to give everybody an overview of what's been passing over here in California.
Yeah. So let me just read these. These are literally just like a super brief description. So we'll start with Senate Bill 1100. That raises the age limit from 18 to 21 years old to purchase any long guns. Assembly Bill 2103. This requires applicants to undergo a minimum of 8 hours of training and pass a live fire shooting test to receive their concealed carry weapons permit in California. Then we have Assembly Bill 3129. This one states that anyone convicted of a misdemeanor, domestic violence charge going forward will lose his or her right to own a firearm. Senate Bill 1200 adds magazines and ammunitions of any type to the list of items that can be temporarily confiscated with a gun violence restraining order. Assembly Bill 1968 mandates a lifetime ban on the ownership of firearms to those involuntarily admitted to a mental health facility more than one time in a 1-year period. And then last but not least, Proposition 63. This is basically the new ammunition purchase law, which requires background checks on all California ammunition purchases. And then last but not least, if we have enough time, we can briefly touch on the one big federal law for 2019, which is the ban on bump stocks, the devices that let semi-automatic rifles fire faster. So, if we have time.
All right, well, let's jump into it. Senate Bill 1100, raising the age limit from 18 to 21 to purchase long guns. Pistols have always been 21. Well, so in California, I don't know exactly what year it went to 21.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but basically, I have a little synopsis for each one of these in my personal notes here, and it basically just says raises the age to buy all legal firearms from 18 to 21. Californians were already barred from buying handguns until age 21. So this is essentially just saying that all guns now have to be purchased after the age of 21. However, military members, law enforcement, and those with hunting licenses are exempt from this law.
Okay.
Jeff Daniels published December 27th, 2018 on CNBC.com. Quote, and I quote here, he said, in addition, California and at least 5 other states, Washington, Florida, Hawaii, Illinois, and Vermont, as well as the District of Columbia, passed laws in 2018 that raised the minimum age from 18 to 21 years old for the purchase of long guns. At least a dozen other states already restrict ownership or possession of long guns to individuals under the age of 21. So at least a dozen others plus 5 more. I mean, we're looking at quite a few states now that are doing this. And what are your thoughts on this?
I don't understand it. I think the big push for this came from or comes from I think the mindset of maybe preventing people from owning AR-15s.
Yeah.
I think that's where they why they're trying to do with the long guns. Even though AR-15s are used in, I mean, I think less than 5% of gun deaths in America.
Right.
But I don't think it makes sense. I don't think it's going to achieve anything except for making people wait 3 more years to buy a gun.
Right. Well, I think my big issue with this, and some of the research that I did showed that the big push for this in 2018 began because of that shooting in Parkland, Florida, at the school there, where I think he was 17 years old. The shooter was 17 years old, and it was in the beginning of the year in 2018. So that was a major push to say, hey, look, this kid got a hold of this AR and then went on a shooting spree. Maybe he was 19. I'm not really sure of the age. But regardless, it was with an AR-15, and I think that was kind of the basis for really pushing this now, especially in the 5 states that actually did something about it. Actually, 6 states, because it's California plus 5 others. So the 6 states that did something about it this year. Now, here's the thing. I pulled up, and this is the Washington Post. Yes. I pulled up an article by the Washington Post, which in my opinion isn't necessarily the most conservative news source, but this was written November 9th, 2018. Actually, it was updated November 9th, 2018. Supposedly, this is an article that gets updated with mass shootings. It's by Bonnie Berkowitz, Denise Liu, and Chris Alcantara. and I'm sorry if I pronounced any of those wrong. I highly doubt they're going to be listening to the podcast, though. Basically, in their article, they summarize all of the mass shootings that have happened in the United States pretty much since August 1st, 1966. They say that 158 mass shootings have taken place since then. Now, they say that the vast majority of the shooters were between ages 20 and 49.
Yes.
So that's a huge, like, range. Like, that's insane. So you've got to be 21 to buy a long gun. They've got 1 year, 20, right? Mm-hmm. And then they've literally got from 21 to 49. That's the average range, right?
Yes.
With one of those years being included in that range. So if they really wanted to do something crazy, like, they should be looking statistically at how often 18 to 20-year-olds are going on these mass shooting sprees, if that's their intention.
Yeah, but I just think it was a knee-jerk reaction.
No, I completely agree, and they don't. That's why they didn't look at it, and that's why they don't care.
That's typically what happens.
Right.
As far as data is concerned, I couldn't really find very much data on just gun deaths in general. But I did see that it's 18 to 40 is the highest victim rate. 18 to 40 years of age male is the highest victim rate.
Okay.
But I didn't see any that had, actual shooter ages.
Statistics. Yeah, I don't know that they're too keen on releasing that kind of information. Anyways, well, the other thing that Washington Post article said is that by far, 9mm semi-automatic handguns show up more than any other weapon.
Yes.
9mm semi-automatic handguns. What part of that is AR-15 rifle? Or long gun, for that matter. I mean, really.
Yeah.
So that just goes to show, that a vast majority of these people are from the ages 20 to 49, but, if you're taking a dead average of that, that's like somewhere around 35 years old, right?
Yes.
And that's a dead average, right? So that doesn't even apply to that age range. And then 9mm semi-automatic handguns show up more than any other weapon in mass shooting history. So why on earth are they targeting the AR-15 and all of these long guns? You're right. It's a knee-jerk reaction. It's a little ridiculous.
Yes, and it does put a limit on all long guns, and even if you have a hunting license, I guess you're exempt.
Right.
But still, that's like bolt action rifles. You're not really going to do very much.
Yeah, I feel like, not to say that bolt action rifles haven't been used in shootings before, but the amount of damage that you can do with a bolt action rifle is far less than some of these other guns that like the semi-automatic handguns. So so that was just some interesting information that I was able to dig up, and that came straight from the Washington Post. Now, here's the other thing that I noticed with this law that I kind of find to be a little frustrating is it says law enforcement, right? They're exempt. Well, here's the problem. If you look at most law enforcement agencies in California, if you actually look at their hiring requirements, they won't even allow you to work as an officer until the age of 21 anyways. Oh. So that exemption, it's really, they're saying like, oh, it's an exemption, you can get around it, but there are very, very few departments in the entire state of California that hire 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
In fact, I think the average age of most law enforcement officers going in is the mid-20s. So really, that doesn't help at all. Now, here's another interesting part about the law is that there's no real defined age for junior hunters in California as long as the hunter safety course is completed. So essentially, that means like a 12-year-old can possess a 12 gauge while hunting with no issues. And, it's that to me is a little ridiculous. If you guys are trusting a 12-year-old kid to go out and take quail and take deer or take whatever ethically and responsibly, why on earth can't they own? I guess they can in this case. They can own a long gun, but it's ridiculous.
I guess for me, it's more of risk reward. You're not really risking anything because it's statistically. These guns are not used in the majority of gun deaths in the United States, but you're preventing people from 18 to 21 to not be able to protect themselves if they need it.
Well, more commonly than that, a home defense shotgun. We've talked about home defense on this show before, and I think we've actually talked about it a few times, but like at that age, if you're 18 years old, you're living on your own, you're in a bad part of town or whatever, you've got an apartment in an area where there are break-ins and this and that. I mean, why on earth can't you buy a 12-gauge shotgun to protect yourself?
I mean, that would make total sense.
Right? Why do you have to be 21 years old now?
Yeah.
Okay, you can live on your own, you can rent an apartment, you can have a credit card, you can join the military, you can vote, but guess what? You can't protect yourself in your own house.
Yeah.
That's essentially what they're saying. The only part of this entire bill that makes any sense to me, just to me personally, is the military at 18 years of age. So they say, hey, we're issuing long guns to the military, and that's what we've been doing forever. We issue long guns to the military. So if you join, you can buy. And I've always said that, hey, man, you're old enough to serve. Why can't you buy a gun? Well, in this case, they're saying, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and serve, and we'll give you a gun. So that's the only part that makes sense. However, from my understanding of the bill is that it doesn't include AR platforms. So there's like a lot of restricted guns that are on this long gun list. Uh-huh. So to me, in my opinion, I'm looking at that going, well, that doesn't make any sense. If you're carrying an AR every day in the military, yet you can't buy an AR platform long gun, what's the sense in that? Yeah,
I mean, a lot of this stuff is not well thought through, in my opinion.
Yeah, but like I said, I'm trying not to be completely negative. I actually agree with that part. If you serve in the military, I think you should be exempt and be able to buy,
Yeah, but, I also think people 18 should be able to buy.
I couldn't agree more. I'm just saying
they should be able to purchase handguns also, too, personally.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm just saying that's the only clause that actually makes any sense. So, the other thing, though, too, is what's to stop, anyone, I mean, honestly, anyone from age 18 to 21 that wants a gun bad enough, I mean, what's to stop them from, but we could literally use that argument pretty much with every single one of these laws.
Yes, we're trying to avoid the law-abiding citizen argument where, the criminals are going to get the guns anyway, which is obvious. I mean, that's an obvious argument. We try to avoid that argument only because that can be applied to everything. And we'll become repetitive if we want to do that. It is true,
but I did feel like it does need to be brought up.
It really does need to be brought up because that needs to be brought up with a lot of the arguments is that, the law-abiding citizens that are 18 to 21 can't protect themselves. But if somebody wanted to commit a crime like murder, a gun law is not something that's going to stop them.
Yeah, right?
That's just the way it is.
Yeah, well, it's just funny to me. The drugs are illegal, meth and cocaine and all these other things, but yet we have people walking into hospitals every day overdosing on these things. So you can get them. Yeah, exactly.
That's just the way it is.
I'm not going to mention that argument again I'm going to try not to mention that argument again for the rest of the evening.
We might have to revisit that again because there
are
so
a few
blatantly
that,
obvious.
That in mine, that in my thought, it's just like that. It's so obvious that like it's not going to do anything.
But what we want to do is just logically break down each law and tell you why it's flawed.
So in my opinion, the biggest thing is that on this one, to summarize, 9mm semi-automatic handguns are used more than any other weapon in mass shootings. Vast majority were between ages of 20 and 49, which gives you an average age of about 35 years old. That being said, it really doesn't make sense that we're banning long guns from people ages 18 to 21.
Yeah, I just don't think it's going to make a difference.
Well, and the kids literally all of the local gun stores were posting clear up until the last day of December, like come in and pick up your gun, today's the last day. So all these kids got grandfathered in. Mm-hmm. So there's a bunch of 18 to 21 year olds running around with, rifles and shotguns.
Who might not have gotten them before.
Who might not have gone out and bought them before. So I don't know. Anyways, on to the next one, which is AB 2103, license to carry concealed weapons. Now, this, I'll read the summary here. This one requires that anyone wanting to carry a concealed weapon undergo a minimum of 8 hours of training on firearm safety, handling, and technique. In addition, applicants would need to demonstrate how to safely handle and shoot a firearm and perform live fire shooting exercises at a firing range. Local sheriffs and police chiefs would still issue concealed weapon permits. In fact, this one is currently in effect. So even though it's a new one for 2019, it was one that we passed a while ago, and then I guess kind of now is more It's a big thing now. So
Well, my thing for this is I've always thought, and I've always kind of told people that if you want to be a concealed carry permit holder, you should train. Everybody should train that wants to shoot. Everybody should undergo their own training. I guess the question now is, should this be government mandated? You know, I don't know. That's up to the individual. I think, you know, 8 hours minimum might be a little too much. You know, I think they put that in there so that less people will want to do it, or, you know.
right, yeah, they go, oh man, an 8 hour day, I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
you know?
but, you know, I just think if you're into guns enough to want to carry concealed, you should have training.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know?
So, in my opinion, this is one law where I really don't have a problem with requiring training per se. In fact, some training is required for most CCW permits in most states. For example, with Arizona, you can carry concealed without a permit. However, a permit allows you to have a lot more freedoms while carrying concealed. And so the one thing that to me is the most important about CCW permits in most states is that it familiarizes you with the laws, the local laws in the states, and then it also familiarizes you with reciprocity in other states. So, like whether or not your concealed carry permit is like good in you know, across state lines, and what you can and can't do. So to me, that's the most important part, is like knowing what laws pertain to you now that you're carrying concealed, and you know what happens when you cross state lines. I think that should be required. I have no problems with that being required.
Yeah, my thing too is I always ask people, what is your line? And you know, I understand the slippery slope arguments, but you know, if the 8 hours minimum and the live fire shooting test, if that was the line and that was what more of the quote unquote anti-gun people want, then they should make that the line, and everybody that does that should be able to get a concealed carry permit with no problems.
Right.
The problem is in California is if you live in certain counties, you're not going to get one.
Yeah, you could even pay for all of that training, go through it, and they go, nah, we're just not going to give it to you.
Yeah, you don't have a valid reason, or you know, things like that. And I know that we're coming from California where the laws are a lot more strict, and it's not, you know, I a lot of people are probably laughing at us saying, well, you know, in my state we just had to go and get one.
Yeah, yeah, just go walk in and get one.
It's not like that in California, unfortunately. You know, and
you have to provide good cause. You have to have a statement that's approved by the sheriff or his, you know, lieutenants or whatever. Someone high up within the sheriff's department has to say, yeah, they have a good reason to carry a gun.
Yeah, not all counties are shall issue counties.
Yeah, and there are a few counties that are shall issue, and for the people that live in those counties, great. But it sucks that you literally can drive 10 minutes in one direction, and you live over there, and now all of a sudden you can't have a permit. And so that's one of the things that I don't like about it, you know. And again, like you said earlier, if training wasn't required, I would still recommend paying for training and doing training yourself. Classes and drills are always important.
Yes.
I mean, that's what makes you good.
Yes, you should know how to work what you're carrying, how to deal with jams, not only for the safety of everybody, but in case you ever had to use it and you had to deal with a jam or deal with something under pressure, you need to be able to do it. You need to train. You need to know what you're doing.
Absolutely, 100%. Now, so I mean, I'm in agreement with it. You know, I feel like some training is required in most states, and I don't have, like I said, a problem with that. Here's my big issue with this one. Is that you can only have 1 to 6 guns registered to your permit in the state of California. In fact, some counties, I believe, only allow you 1 gun. That's it. You can have 1 gun, you qualify with it, and that is it. You can't carry any other gun. I know there's a few counties around here that allow you up to 3 guns, and then there's one county in particular that allows you to carry up to 6 guns. But you have to qualify with each gun, which again, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I guess, like, I get it. You could easily qualify and then like be denied the permit. Like you said, it's just, there's so much of it where like you could go through all these hoops and then still get denied the permit. And that's the part that I don't really like. Now, here's the other issue is, let's say you're new to this. You go through all the hoops, you get your concealed carry license. You only have 1 gun. That's the gun that you carry. And then as you start buying more guns, you now have to re-qualify with each new gun, and it costs to add each new gun to your permit.
Yes.
So unlike other states where
That's
it's
a
like,
problem.
we give you a concealed carry permit, you can carry any pistol you want. So if you're just driving around in your truck all day and you want a big old 44 Magnum in the glove box, that's fine.
Yes.
Right? But if you want to then transition to a subcompact 9mm and go walk around and do whatever, it's like, okay, that's fine too. Over here, it's, well, you got to qualify with the 44. You got to qualify with this. You got to qualify with that gun. And so half the time, even getting an appointment to go in and qualify will take a year at a time. So
Yeah, and literally a year. I mean, it's not an exaggeration when you say a year.
No, there's, and I'm speaking from experience of knowing people who have applied where the wait lists have been 2 years.
Yes.
I had a buddy who
ridiculous.
applied 2 years ago, and his date is coming up soon.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. 2 years ago. Applied in 2017, barely getting his interview date in 2019. Plus, he's got 6 months now of a process to go through. Background checks, training, qualifications, and everything.
Yeah, and the problem is if, you're somebody that's not familiar with guns and firearms, writing these laws, I know one of the arguments would be, well, why do you need to carry different kinds of guns? Why, and if you don't understand why, that's how I understand why some of these laws get passed. It's, it's something as simple as, well, in the wintertime, I like to carry a bigger gun because it's full size and I feel more comfortable. But in the summertime, I don't have the room to carry that.
Yeah.
It's
well, and
I'm not
also,
wearing a jacket every day.
It depends on where you're going.
Yeah, it definitely
if you're
depends on
going to
where
be
you're
in a
going.
position where you think that if a potential threat were to, come up and you're going to have to take a shot over 25 yards, you want a little bit bigger of a gun.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes you want to dress up and you want to carry a Springfield 1911 TRP, stainless steel.
Ridiculous.
And you don't want to go with that mil-spec.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, you think it's going to shoot an extra yard further? It's a 45. Come on.
It looks a lot nicer then.
Oh, whatever. Anyways, my thing is that the biggest issue with this whole thing should be learning the laws and common sense when it comes to CCW. 8 to 16 to even 20 hours of training is not going to make you a better shooter.
No.
It's not going to make you a better shooter, which is why I think qualifying is stupid too. Because either you could, essentially you have to come in knowing how to shoot.
Yes.
There's no hey, we see you, here's a permit, now go out and practice. It's like, no, you got to come already ready to go and be able to perform. I think that's very limiting on certain people who maybe just like a mom who doesn't have time to necessarily train, but wants to carry a small gun in her purse.
Yes.
Yeah,
and I don't know. Accuracy is huge, and
it is
qualifying under certain circumstances it still doesn't mean you know how to handle a gun.
Right.
I mean,
it has nothing to do with that because I think the way that they have you qualify is you line up, you shoot, however many rounds at 15 yards, however many rounds at 7 yards, and however many rounds at 10 yards or whatever. And it's like, okay, you need 70% to qualify. Okay, what happens when the bullets start flying or when stuff is going on or there's car alarms going off or sirens or whatever, are you going to be able to perform at 15 yards the same way?
Yeah, and another thing, too, is knowing how to handle a gun. And California already makes the seller do a full check and make sure that the purchaser, if that's a word, yes, purchaser, if the purchaser knows how to operate the gun. They have to show them, and that's part of the checklist that they have to do.
Yeah.
So every gun you buy, you're gonna at least have some familiarity with it.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. 8 hours, and I think they're talking about moving it to 16 hours. But in my opinion, 8 hours isn't going to make you a better shooter.
No,
it's just not. So I'm not pushing for them to go, okay, well then let's just up it to 60 hours or however long it's going to take. No, it's something where if you want, it's just a right. But B, it's one of those things where if you care enough to go out and jump through all these hoops, you probably care enough to train beforehand and know what you're doing.
Yeah, and training's the one half. I think the other half that's really important is understanding the laws and knowing.
Right.
And I definitely recommend people taking that class. I just don't know if government mandating it is something that I would agree with.
They mandate certain things for, like a driver's license. You have to be able to pass a permit test. I would be okay with, hey, if you don't want to take a class, then be able to test out.
Yeah.
If you can pass a test that all the CCW laws for your state, then I don't see a reason.
But like I said, being from California, if that's
the case,
and if that's the case, if that's all I have to do, I would do it.
Yeah.
Just to be able to do it.
Absolutely.
That still doesn't guarantee us.
Well, and I think the whole
permit
point
in
is
California.
that they just want to make it as difficult as possible for people.
Yeah, I mean that seems like what it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, I pretty much said everything on this one. You want to move on to our next our next bill?
Yeah. So AB 3129, Firearms Prohibited Persons, creates a lifetime ban on gun ownership for anyone convicted of misdemeanor domestic violence. However, it only applies to convictions after January 1st, 2019, and it is not retroactive. I'm going to be honest with you. I really don't have much to say about this one. It's definitely more of a sensitive topic for some people. Domestic violence is not a good thing ever at any time. So in my opinion, I think that this is a pretty solid law.
Well, my problem is the lifetime ban and the domestic violence thing. It's a little scary for me because the conviction is a big thing. You have to be convicted in order for this to go through. But a lot of times, fighting is both ways, and a lot of things can go wrong where people get accused of stuff that maybe didn't happen, but they can't really prove it in court. So that's kind of scary. That's lifetime, but you have to trust the justice system, and if you're convicted, then that's where it kind of gets a little weird with me. I'm not exactly sure how I feel about this. I don't like lifetime for anything.
Yeah.
And do you even know what would be misdemeanor domestic violence, so as opposed to like felony or?
I don't know. You might be able to look up what that is. I do have some notes here currently. So current California law is set at a 10-year ban on possessing firearms or ammunition for misdemeanor domestic violence. And you'll probably want to look it up for California. Sorry, but like I said, I think if it's a true conviction and someone actually did follow through with this, and they committed a domestic violence misdemeanor, I don't see any issue with them if it was truly malicious and then they were convicted. But I completely agree with you. That's what I actually have here in my notes. Is my only issue for this is that maybe innocent people wrongfully convicted on false allegations. So like maybe a husband and wife are going at it. She lies and tells law enforcement, he did this, and this, or even vice versa. A husband does and says, she's crazy, this, and that. And then that leads to a he said, she said kind of wrongful conviction. That's where I have issue with it as well. Because, I think anyone, but in that case, I feel the same about anything. If you're wrongfully convicted of anything, it's tough.
It's not fair.
In this case, though,
people have been wrongfully convicted and put to death. So.
Right, and so in this case, I think it's a little more cut and dry though, because oftentimes domestic violence can be he said, she said. Yeah. If she says this or he says this, they can put someone away for that. So here's my thought on the law: is I think that maybe it should be updated to a lifetime, but there should be a challenge or appeals process for someone. And then if found innocent, it should be immediately reversed. And then there also, in my opinion, I think there should be a penalty for someone who makes up false domestic violence claims. If a conviction, a wrongful conviction, is found to be overturned in this appeals process or challenge process, then I think that there should definitely be a penalty for the person who said, "Oh yeah, he hit me," or "she hit me," or this or that happened. Yeah. And so that's really all I have to say about this one.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me. Also, it's just it's one of those ones that's really tough. I think it's currently 10 years. You said?
Yeah.
I think 10 years might be enough for a misdemeanor.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say. Lifetime. Something that permanent is kind of scary, I think. It
is definitely scary. The other thing, though, too, is probably, and that's something I haven't really considered until right now, is the relationship, too. If that's something where the relationship is volatile and tumultuous, where there constantly is conflict, and then all of a sudden you remove yourself from that relationship, whether that be, breaking up or divorce or whatever the case might be, and you get out of that situation, you find yourself in a really, really good and healthy relationship later on, or in a great situation, then at that point, I think that might be grounds for, like I said, there should be some kind of appeals process or a challenge process where you can say, hey, look, I know I have this lifetime ban, but look at my record over the last 10 years, or look at the way I've made changes in my life. And so that would be something that would be great to have implemented. Yeah,
there should be some steps that can be taken.
Like rehabilitation, so to speak. Yeah. So next is going to be Senate Bill, so SB 1200. This is gun violence RO confiscation, so gun violence restraining orders. This bill adds ammunition cartridges and magazines to the list of items that police can confiscate as part of a gun violence restraining order. This law is already in effect. So it was one that was voted on, and it's now already in effect. But it is a newer law for 2019. So my thing with this one is ammo and magazines are pretty much worthless without a firearm.
Yes.
So I don't really understand the whole point of confiscating them if you're already taking away the firearm. Basically, I guess in my mind, I think how long are they going to be confiscated for? Is it the same duration as the firearms? What's the process, and what kind of a hassle will it be to get them back? And the gun violence restraining orders oftentimes are actually temporary. So it's only like a 30-day unless they can prove reason to actually keep a permanent thing on there. So like, how hard is it going to be to get back along with the guns? And then the other thing is, I know that most departments charge a seized property fee.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, how much is it going to cost to have the items returned? And then on top of that, like, will these items that have been seized from you be maintained or stored properly? Or are they just going to be like, you know what I mean? There's just so many factors and moving parts to it that I just feel like it's super inefficient.
Yes, this is ridiculous in my opinion. You can't use ammo or magazines without a gun. And if you're willing to get a gun, it's illegal. And why would you not be willing to get ammo and magazines also? It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It just leaves more fees for you if you're found innocent. You're still going to have to pay.
Yeah.
And it just leaves way too much room for error. I mean, they can lose all your stuff. Your
stuff can get destroyed.
Yeah, stuff can get accidentally destroyed. There's just, and some people have a lot of magazines and a lot of ammunition, and that's a lot of time for people to be logging all that stuff in and keeping track of it.
It's a huge waste of law enforcement resources, in my opinion.
Yeah, in my opinion, that's ridiculous. It really doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so not only then are you spending money, essentially, the taxpayer's spending money on these guys logging in every single item that they're, bringing in or whatever, but then it's like, now you got to pay money to have it brought back. It's taking up all kinds of room and seized property. Like, it just seems like a huge mess. And like I said, it's kind of dumb because, and don't even get me started on the gun violence restraining orders in general, because they're pretty easy to get on somebody. And so, I mean, like, we could go right back up to the prohibited persons, the domestic violence. You could be in a fight with a spouse or with a partner or a roommate or something like that, or a family member, and they could immediately go, okay, he's crazy, take away his guns. Now all of a sudden they storm in, take your guns, take your ammunition, take your magazines. You've done nothing wrong. That goes to court, nothing comes of it. They can't, go any further with it. Now you got to pay all these fees to get your stuff back.
Yeah.
When you did nothing wrong. Mm-hmm. So, in my opinion, this one's stupid. I think they should just get rid of this one. That's just my... It's just dumb. It's really dumb.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like I said, and it goes back to the criminals.
Will do what they want.
Criminals will do what they want anyway. If you're going to get a gun on the black market or illegally, however, or if you're going to borrow one from somebody else,
you're not going to get it without guns or ammo.
You can easily get the ammo. You can easily get the magazines.
Like what are you going to do with an empty gun? You know what I mean? Like,
the same thing is, what are you going to do with a magazine full of ammo with no gun?
And let's come back to this when we get down to Proposition 63. Remind me if I don't bring it up, but to come back to this, because I have a good point that kind of ties in with both. So moving on to the next one is Assembly Bill 1968. So this is in regards to mental health. So this mandates a lifetime ban on the ownership of firearms for individuals if they were involuntarily admitted to a mental health facility for more than once within a 1-year period because they were deemed a danger to themselves or others. the individual could appeal the ban every 5 years.
Okay.
So the bill becomes operative at the end of 2019. Now, the reason why I like this one is I think that this one is a solid law. I have no issues with this one that I could find. Now, there might be something I didn't read every single paragraph of it. It's a lot of legal jargon, and I don't know that I could even interpret all of it.
Uh-huh.
But I do think it's a solid law. Now, the reason why I think it's solid is because it has strong safeguards. Now, you have to be involuntarily admitted twice, more than once, so twice or more in 1 year.
So does that mean 365 consecutive days, or from January 1st to December 31st?
No. It says within a 1 year period.
Okay.
Within a 1 year period is actually what the law states. So, sorry, I should have added period to the end of that. So within a 365 consecutive day, if you get admitted involuntarily twice, then they can now mandate a lifetime ban. The reason why I also like this one is it does allow for the appeal for the ban every 5 years. So you could go back and appeal it and get, maybe test out or, take a psych exam or whatever.
And, I don't know very much about mental health facilities or anything like that. So I noticed in the language it does say involuntarily admitted and deemed to be a danger to themselves or others. So,
right.
If you're admitted for a different reason, does this law apply? I'm curious.
No, well, and that's the thing that I looked at. It's, the idea is that they want to protect the people who they really believe are a risk to themselves and to others. So many people suffer daily from mental illnesses, but have it totally under control. There's a lot of people that have anxiety, social anxiety, that have maybe OCD or things like that don't necessarily make them a danger to anyone else. They just have these mental illnesses that they cope with and live with on a daily basis and are fine. In fact, you have a lot of military veterans and maybe even police officers that suffer from post-traumatic stress that have seen a lot of horrible things but can keep everything in check, right? So the great thing about this is this isn't just someone seeing a therapist for, relationship issues or anxiety or whatever. It's not like, oh my gosh, if I go see a therapist, all of a sudden they're going to come and take my guns away. It's for people who are essentially suicidal, or a threat to themselves, a threat to others, and again, are involuntarily admitted. And so that's the biggest thing, is that they're involuntarily admitted. And so to me, like I said, I personally, I think this is a solid law. Plus, it has the option to appeal every 5 years.
Yes, that's the one thing I do like, is the option to appeal every 5 years. A lot of these things aren't really set in stone for California, but I wonder what the appeals process would be, and
how
do you have to really convince somebody that you're not crazy anymore, or,
right?
There's a lot of factors.
There's a lot of unknowns, and that's the issue with most of these laws. To be honest with you, it's one of those things for me though, where I just feel like I'm trying to look at these in the best light that I possibly can.
Yep.
I don't want to go charging into every single one, going nope, no, because essentially that's what creates conflict. So.
Yeah, and obvious, I think when you're arguing and you're on your side and that's it, and then the other people are on their side and that's it, especially on the gun debate, this is how we get into these votes where the extreme side wins, because if you're extremely set on your view and the other side's extremely set on their view, then the laws that come to vote are going to be extreme on one side or the other.
Right.
And then depending on the state you live in, one side's going to win all the time.
All the time, yeah.
So I try to approach everything with an open mind. I think that this one is pretty good. I like the appeals. Obviously there's going to maybe be some people that are going to be victims of this where, maybe they don't deserve to get their guns taken away.
Yeah.
But, just going off of memory, I don't have any of the statistics in front of me, but it seems like all the big mass shootings were people that were medicated.
Yeah.
And, with, anti-anxiety drugs or whatever.
Yeah.
And their guns were bought legally.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a problem there. We got to figure that out.
Yeah.
I don't know if this has necessarily stopped that from happening.
Yeah. But it might reduce it a little bit.
It might reduce it, yeah.
Yeah. So, Yeah, no, and like I said, I think you're absolutely right. I think in order to argue, you have to be able to see both sides. And in all honesty, on this one, I'm actually kind of okay with it. So, actually, I'm pretty okay with it.
Which surprises me because I think you're more of the
emotional one of the two. I'm just like, no way, like nothing, don't pass anything ever. Like, give me my rights. No, but see, that's the thing is I'm man enough to look at that and go, look, there's an option to appeal. It's involuntarily admitted, and it's not on anything. It's just those that are deemed a danger to themselves or others. To me, that just seems like, from what I was able to read, it seems very sound. And so that's the thing is if they take the time, and I'm not saying like it doesn't matter what party you're in, it doesn't matter what groups you're a part of, it doesn't matter what your ideals are, but if whoever had their hand in creating this law, if they sat down and took the time to do the research and go, okay, look, we have the safeguards, we've got checks and balances, we've got this whole thing figured out. Yes, there are going to be some things that slip through the cracks, and maybe sometimes we're going to be a little too strict, but we have ways to get around that and to help out. Like, I'm all for it, as long as it's in the middle and it makes sense,
Yeah, and then, I'd like to add, I understand a lot of people will go to like a slippery slope kind of thing and say, well, if we allow this, then what's to stop them from doing something even more extreme? Well, my response to that is you have to draw your line. So if I'm willing to accept this, we have to be able to say, look, if you go a little further, then, and you don't agree with that, then you have to speak up. Because here, I agree with this the way it is now. If they want to make it stricter, then we reevaluate and we say, look, no, then this is not fair.
Yeah.
I don't agree with this.
Yeah.
So...
As it is, I like it. But yeah, if they were to add anything to it or make that 5-year appeal a 10-year appeal, then all of a sudden it's like, no,
you have to revisit
no.
it and say, look, this is not something that I agree with now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think a lot of people, in order to not argue, they just say, well, what about this? And they go to an extreme example, and it's like, okay, but we're not talking about that right now.
Yeah, we're talking
now we're talking about this law specifically as the way it's written. I think it's fine.
Absolutely. So now moving on to Proposition 63. I think we'll save the federal law for another time.
Okay.
Actually, we can talk about that when we talk about maybe featureless ARs and stuff like that, just since we're running short on time here. Proposition 63. Now, this one relates to California ammunition purchases. This was passed by voters in 2016. However, it doesn't begin until July 1st, 2019. So we still got about 6 months before this takes effect. Ammunition dealers will be required to check with the Department of Justice at the time of purchase that individuals seeking to buy ammunition are not prohibited persons from buying ammunition. I would love to do a podcast just on this. In fact, I ended up doing way more research on this than I probably should have, since we're only touching on each of these laws. So I'd love to eventually do a probably maybe close to July 1st, we can do a podcast on this. But there's a lot of really great information about it that's finally being released. And like I said, as I was reading here, it was passed by voters in 2016. We literally have been sitting here talking to one another since 2016 on and off about the ammunition laws. What's it going to bring? What's it going to be?
We had no idea.
Every time you go into a Turner's or a gun shop or Bass Pro or any of those big, name stores around here, it's like, hey, what's the update for the 2019 gun laws or ammunition laws? What's the update? And every time it's like, well, they're saying this, they're saying that. So there's been a lot of mysterious, rumors, I guess, here and there. People have said this, they've said that. They said there's going to be a background check that you do every 5 years. There's going to be a card. There's going to be this. There's going to be that. We actually have more clarity on that. But what I really want to talk about is why I think that this law is stupid. To put it eloquently.
Well, I'll can I just make a point?
Yeah,
really quick?
Of course.
One thing that bothers me, and it's not just this law, it's a lot of California laws in general, and I don't know how other states do it because I don't live in other states. But I do not like the fact that we vote on things that we have no really clear-cut way of how things are going to be carried out. It's just...
It's like we voted on it, 3 years ago, and we still don't... I mean, we know now.
There was no infrastructure set up, or not even plans for an infrastructure.
No, it was just background checks for ammunition. Yeah. That's all it was.
And to me, that's ridiculous.
And now, like I said, we know what it is. And actually, I'm going to leave you guys on a cliffhanger. It could be cards. It could be a 5-year check. It could be expensive fees. It might not be anything really that big, but we'll leave you guys hanging on that. The most important part is that, they passed this with absolutely no idea how they were going to carry it out. And that to me is stupid. Going back to SB 1200, so the Gun Violence Restraining Order confiscations, confiscating ammunition, cartridges, and magazines. Here's my point also for Proposition 63, ammunition purchases. Ammunition is basically useless without guns. The worst thing you could do with it is try and light it on fire and hope that it explodes.
Yes.
Like that, like literally. Like that is essentially all you could really do with it. And here's the thing. They want us to do background checks on ammunition, but you can't buy a gun without a background check. So essentially, if ammunition is useless without a gun, and you have to have a background check to buy a gun, why do you have to have a background check to buy ammunition? Like that's that's the part I don't get. Like, I just don't get it. Because if you're gonna, sorry, I'm not gonna say it, but essentially, if you were going to do illegal things, you're gonna do illegal things. It's just, it doesn't make any sense, and that's the problem. Here's the other big kicker: is that reloading products and equipment that you use for reloading is all free game. You can buy that without a background check. I could buy a carton of black powder, a bunch of bullets, and shell casings and primers, and make all of my own bullets at home without any background check, right? So that's fine. Anyone can make ammo at home without a background check, but you can't go in and buy pre-manufactured ammo that, in my opinion, might be better and safer than the reloaded ammo at home. It's all like, manufacturer specification. Like, I just don't get it.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's hard for me to get in the mind of someone else. I don't like to assign negative thoughts to people that I don't know what they're actually thinking. But I don't know if this is just to collect more fees, or
it might be,
or if these people people that I understand the voters probably just don't understand. The way I see it is, in California, if you're sold that this law is going to save lives, the people of California are going to vote for it because we have more people that are not educated
than anything else.
Yeah, when it comes to firearms, even.
Well, and to other laws, though, too. I mean, you got vaccine issues and healthy eating. And
I've even talked to people that are, not necessarily against guns, but they're really neutral. And when you tell them about the law, it's like, oh, yeah, well, I want to,
save more lives.
Save more lives.
Save the lives,
That
man.
sounds good.
Yeah, let's save all the lives.
But, when you kind of explain it to them, they're like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
And in California, we have a lot of laws where when you explain it to somebody, they kind of understand, like, oh, this is not what it's cracked up to be. But without that explanation, they would vote for it.
They just blindly vote for it. Yeah, it's you know what it is? It's the plastic bag theory. We take plastic bags out of grocery stores because it saves the planet. So now I got to carry in canvas bags or reusable bags, essentially, every time I go to the grocery store. And if not, I get charged for it. Most of the people read that as like, oh, yeah, like we're going to save the environment. Yeah. Well, what they didn't realize is that I can go to the hardware store and get plastic bags. I can go to Bass Pro Shop and get plastic bags. Anywhere that's not a grocery store, I can get plastic bags. And it's not a big deal. Really, all it did was screw over the grocery stores now. Yeah. And the people who have to go shop. And so that's really what this is that people look at this and go, oh, let's save the planet, let's save the people, let's save the animals, let's save everything. And they don't really educate themselves on what it actually does. Yeah. And who cares? I'm an American. If I want plastic bags at a grocery store, I should be allowed to have plastic bags. It's not that hard.
And my, yeah.
I'm sorry.
And my thing is, I understand people cannot possibly do all the research and know everything about everything.
No, but it doesn't take that long to Google it.
Yeah, but it makes it tough. It really does when the majority of the people in your state just automatically think a certain way, without considering the other side. And I think like if this came up in a state that's more, I don't want to say conservative, but more pro-gun, or Not only that, I don't even mean more pro-gun. I just think where guns are not used, there's less inner city, where there's less violence, where guns are not used for violence, are used as tools, like for hunting and things like that.
Yeah.
A lot of people would see this law and automatically think, no, that's not good.
Yeah.
Where here, I just think it's the opposite.
Well, yeah, because you hear about gang violence, you hear
Yeah.
about shootings all the time, and
a lot of it's close to home because, Los Angeles is a huge city.
yeah,
San Francisco is a big city.
Yeah.
San Diego. I mean, in California, we have a lot of big cities, and that dominates
Oakland and
it dominates our voting.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, it really does.
The population in Los Angeles alone is it's huge.
yeah, between Los Angeles and San Francisco, they pretty much can swing the entire California vote.
And honestly, we could these two cities can swing the whole West Coast pretty much.
Really, yeah, they can. Yeah, and that's the upsetting part. So back to Prop 63 before we kind of come to a close. Here's the other thing. So we talked about reloading products and stuff like that as well. Here's the other thing that I found. So again, I said black powder, but like fire accelerants and all of that are still legal, right? So like essentially, in my opinion, ammunition, like I said, is kind of useless without guns. You smack a primer on the back of the head, the whole thing's going to explode in your hand. It's not going to shoot out like it would in a gun. So it's kind of pointless to have that. So really, all ammunition is good for without a gun is, again, an explosive. So yet we have fire accelerants that are legal, and anyone could really, with enough research, could legally purchase stuff to hurt others in store. In my opinion, I feel like a machete is far more violent, or can be used for far more violence than guns with or bullets with no gun.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
And yeah, so there's so many other things that are out there that it's like, okay, well, you could just, what was it? The FBI statistics came out and said that blunt force trauma was like the leading cause of death, like more deaths by blunt force trauma than it was by firearms. So my point is that restricting ammo purchases and making background checks happen with every ammo purchase, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yes, this law for me 100% doesn't make sense. Just forget about the background checks. That in itself doesn't make sense. But the fact that this law passed with zero infrastructure in place or plan.
Yeah, that to me is insane.
And for us, I mean, when the year came where we're supposed to do the background checks, like Ryan had said earlier, we went into our local shops and you kind of ask around, like, well, hey, what's going to happen? Hey, can I buy ammo? I literally didn't know
until like probably a week ago when I researched it all and was like, oh, that's what it is.
Yeah. Oh, I go to buy shotgun shells to go to the skeet range.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure. And I was surprised when I went to Walmart and they still have ammo here. I wasn't even sure if they were going to carry ammo anymore.
Well, yeah, because there was more than just this with it. I mean, you have to have it like all locked behind counters. People can't handle it. But that was implemented earlier.
Yeah, and that's another thing too is we didn't really touch on what the sellers have to go through because they also have to be permitted. And they're making it a lot harder for them to
so they
sell
all
the
have
ammo.
to have a certain class of FFL license, whereas before I don't know that they really needed that.
I don't think ammo was as heavily regulated.
Like I said, I'd love to do just an episode just simply on ammo purchases and ammo in California, because I think part of the problem is that the background checks didn't start until 2019, but in 2016 when the original law passed, there were things that were implemented right off the bat. And so that there's like all that I'd love to like go over, but we're just kind of sticking with 2019. So I'll leave you guys hanging on that. I know now what it's going to require. I know what's going to be implemented. So I'm going to leave you guys with that and hopefully here soon. Or we may just push it out till June or July. Right before they release it, we'll do an episode in regards to ammo purchases. I think it'll be good. So other than that, I really don't have a whole lot more. We've covered all the laws, and again, we'll save the federal bump stock law. I will just read the one statement that I have on it, just so you guys can be aware. This was by Jason Silverstein of CBS News, updated January 2nd, 2019. It basically just says on the federal level, there is at least one major change coming in 2019, a ban on bump stocks, the devices that let semi-automatic rifles fire faster rounds. The gunman responsible for the 2017 rampage in Las Vegas, which is the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history, used bump stocks to fire more than 1,100 rounds into a country music festival crowd in only 10 minutes. Congress attempts to ban bump stocks after the massacre went nowhere, but the Trump administration announced in October 2018 that it was amending the legal definition of machine guns to encompass bump stocks, effectively making the devices illegal. The ban is expected to take effect in March. So, again, we can go in deeper detail on that.
I'll just say, are they banning rubber bands?
I don't believe they're banning rubber bands. So,
if you know anything about bump stocks, you would get that joke. But
yeah, I don't believe they're banning rubber bands. So I think, that's still a viable option.
So let's close it out. Let's talk about the whiskey. My big thing I'm going to say is I think you need something like Single Barrel Select Jack Daniels to talk about these kinds of things because it can be pretty frustrating sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And I need to calm my nerves a little bit.
This will definitely do that.
As you can tell in Ryan's voice, he got a little animated, which is pretty funny.
Yeah. That had nothing to do with the whiskey so much as the emotion.
But in all seriousness, like most whiskeys, this thing tastes a lot better when the ice melts a little bit and kind of like, it's like higher end Jack Daniels. I don't know how else to explain it. It tastes like Jack Daniels, but good.
Yeah, well,
without that burn and stuff.
Absolutely,
and it's got more flavor than the Gentleman Jack. I like it. I've always liked it. I've had it before.
What we didn't mention was pricing. I believe pricing on it's about $40 a bottle.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot more expensive than the Gentleman Jack.
It might even be $50. And then just so you guys know, another little unique fact. Now that I'm actually looking at the bottle. Without giving away too much OPSEC, this bottle was bottled on March 12th, 2018, and the barrel number was 18-1666.
Ooh.
Oh, man. I don't know if I want to drink this anymore.
I might have to take that one home.
Yeah. Anyways, thanks for sticking with us. We'll be doing a more cigar-centric episode next time around, and again, to all of our Californians, stay strong and stay compliant.
And as always, we appreciate the support. And this is Smoke the Podcast signing off.
Have a good night.